Abbey by Donald McCarthy Moore. Destroyed by Cromwell 1652. There were Franciscans in the Abbey, and the friars are gone from it 300 years. It's the burial ground, and that's where I go to be buried.
You're going to be buried there?
It's in a tomb. It is in a tomb. They have restored the Abbey at this time. They have it all pinned out, and they're done up the high roof.
We're at the Muckross Priory. It said the friary was dedicated to the Holy Trinity and is known to have in its possession a miraculous statue of the Virgin. Muckross was suppressed by the order of Henry VIII in 1541, but formally reestablished in 1612. The friars were eventually driven out by the Cromwellians in 1652. Muckross, from Muckross, means a type of pigwood. Very windy on the side of the Abbey.
Is that these landowners brought in Christian people, as in the Franciscans here. The Franciscans were brought in because they were terrific farmers. So they would have brought an organisation into farming that the local people didn't have. And that was one of the reasons why a lot of these landowners brought in and invited particular groups of people to come in as the religious order of the day. So they would have helped in creating organised farming around and about the lands here. They would have introduced religion and kept everything going.
Oh, how beautiful. Is all this still original? Or?
Yeah, this is all original.
Oh,
yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous.
That is gorgeous.
There's a lovely atmosphere to this place.
It is. I love the
Very
shells.
peaceful. Yeah, main chapel area, down to the altar down there. This would have been a side chapel, which would have been used for smaller services, or maybe just morning service, or a compline evening service. And also, the other thing to consider is you've got the prime example here of the wealthy having the money to buy a place nearer to God. So the wealthier you were, the more money you had to buy a burial place inside the Abbey.
Yes.
And therefore people had the belief that if they could be buried inside the Abbey, the nearer to God they could get, the better the place in heaven. And so the stinking rich, and this is where it all comes from. And many of our abbeys that have been restored, you can't do so much in Ireland. In Ireland, there's no way of getting rid of old tombs without family permission. So all our graveyards are perpetual. So you can't just dig up a grave here and just say, oh, well, you know, it's been there for the last 100 years, so we'll just get rid of it. They've got to go and research, find the family, ask for permission, and see if they can move them and bury them outside of the Abbey. So that's why this Abbey is restored to a certain extent, but the old tombs are still here.
Do they know whose tombs these are? Right?
In some cases they would, and in some cases they wouldn't. And as you can see, there's flagstones here, and you just can't make out any
see
writing
anything
at all.
on it.
Yeah, on the ground. And I'll just check.
Well, the cloisters.
Is the oldest tree in Killarney. This is the old yew tree, which is now being supported to just keep it in position, but it's been here since the Abbey was built.
Since the 1400s?
Yeah, so that's
oh my goodness gracious, that is a very old tree.
Cloisters are
gorgeous
just
cloisters.
Yeah, really, really lovely. Lived up above, upstairs, and it would be the type that's made from lime and animal blood to hold it together, bind it together, and then, little bits of sticks and, sand to cement. So this is the old original cement on the roof up here. And you have the little stone stairway here, which leads upstairs.
We're going to go upstairs and see where they were called friars, where Friar Tuck lived. Kitchen fireplace.
Standing in the fireplace, my chimney up above me. And this is where all the cooking would have been done.
I don't smell anything cooking right now, and I'm getting really hungry.
The doors generally are narrower at the top and wider at the bottom. This one is different, it's the other way round. But the reason that they're made narrower at the top and wider at the bottom is because animals are the other way round. But you're hardly going to get animals upstairs in an abbey. So obviously they could build this.
Right.
These became popular places around about the 1200s and 1400s. But earlier than that, they would have had very small religious centres. It was fashionable to live in seclusion, more hermits. And obviously then they started brewing up these brews with the slows. And
A little gin. Let's have a little drink to our brethren today.
Because this is where they actually lived, this would have been built as a defence. Now, don't forget, McCarthy More was behind building it. So McCarthy More would have given the money. And he also would have had an interest in it, in that it was a place he could flee to, which was deemed to be safe. But of course, Cromwell came in and didn't respect anything like that.
Right.
And hence the abbey was completely knocked by Cromwell.
You can see that slot in the stone is for natural drainage, but Linda just told us something interesting. Somewhere in the abbey, in a downwind direction, they would have a hole in the ground, not over here, that would serve as a toilet for the monks. Natural drainage, and we all know why it had to be downwind, don't we? It's almost impossible to make out the gargoyles now. They have surely passed the test of time, from 1435, and the tower up here was primarily used for defensive purposes. Linda just told me, which I never knew, that the reason you went down like this right-handed is because your right hand was always down so you could pull a sword and fight your way. Poor Steve would be in trouble because he's left-handed.
This was a tomb. This is a family tomb, and a lot of places would be family tombs, and some of them out in the main graveyard would still be used to this day.
That's some tomb.
So when the Jarveys say that he's going to be buried here, there's a family tomb here that he belongs into.
Got it.
Built to the memory of Lucy, who's the wife of Christopher Galway, the man who gave the name to Galway's Bridge just outside Killarney. And the monument was erected by the inhabitants of Killarney and its neighbourhood to testify the deep sense of those among whom she lived and the exemplary fidelity with which she discharged the relative duties of wife, mother and friend.